The Nile still flows, and with it, time itself. There are stories that don't need to be remembered, because they were never forgotten. They live in the water, in the wind, in the dust kissed by the morning sun. Close your eyes. Breathe. What you are about to hear is not just a story. It's a return. A return to a world where humans rose with the birds and slept to the rhythm of the river. Let the sound carry you to where the Nile dreams, where the past still breathes, and dawn is forever. The Nile still flows. Listen, can you hear it? Not with your ears of today, but with something older, something that remembers. The water moves as it always has, patient, generous, eternal, carrying within its current the dust of 3,000 years. Close your eyes now, traveler of time. Let the weight of the day dissolve. Feel the pillow beneath your head become the woven reed mat of another world. Feel your breath slow to match the rhythm of that ancient river, flowing north through desert and memory alike. The air is cooling. Night surrenders slowly here, reluctant to leave the warmth of the sand. Somewhere in the darkness, the last frogs sing their wet-throated songs. Crickets pulse in the reeds. An owl calls once, twice, then silence. The kind of silence that comes just before the world transforms. You are not alone in this darkness. Millions of others breathed this same pre-dawn air, felt this same anticipation, waited for this same gift of light. Their hearts beat the rhythm you feel now in your chest. Their dreams dissolved into waking just as yours will dissolve into this story. Before we walk together through that distant day, prepare yourself for the journey. Lower the lights around you. If you can, let the modern world dim. Allow sounds to soften. This is a gift you give yourself? 2 hours stolen from the rush. Return to a time when hours moved like honey, golden and slow. If this journey brings you peace, share it. Press the small symbols of connection, like, subscribe. Tell another traveler where you found this rest. But do not think of that now. Think only of breathing. Think only of the river. The Nile remembers everything. It remembers the hands that drew water at dawn, the children who laughed in its shallows, the boats that carried grain and hope, and the simple weight of living. It remembers because water does not forget. It flows through time, not around it. And so we will follow that water backward, or perhaps forward, for in the realm of rest and story, time is a circle, not a line. We will walk through a day that happened 3,000 years ago, and never truly ended. Because work is eternal, because bread must be baked, because the sun rises whether pharaohs live or die, and because the hearts of common people beat the truest rhythm of all ages. Let us begin. The darkness holds its breath, and somewhere along the Nile, in a village whose name the river swallowed long ago, the first whisper of dawn touches the eastern horizon. Story 1. Morning along the Nile. The darkness before dawn is not empty. It is full of the day gathering itself, full of dreams releasing their sleepers, full of the temperature that hovers between night's coolness and the coming warmth. In a small house made of mud brick and prayer, a family sleeps. The walls are thick, smoothed by hand, the color of the earth from which they were born. The roof is woven palm fronds, dried and layered, whispering when the wind touches them. Inside, on mats woven from Nile reeds, they rest. A man, his wife, their 3 children, his mother, all breathing in rhythm, creating a chorus of human presence. The youngest child curls against his mother's side. The oldest daughter's hand rests on the family cat, feeling the vibration of its purring even in sleep. The air inside is still warm from yesterday's heat, trapped by the thick walls. But through the single high window, a cooler breath enters, carrying with it the smell of the river, wet earth, crushed papyrus, fish, and something else. Something that cannot be named but speaks of life itself. Outside, the village waits. Other houses cluster close, forming narrow pathways between them. Some structures lean slightly, ancient even then, held upright by habit and repair. The grain storage jars stand like sentinels near doorways. A few chickens shuffle in sleep, heads tucked under wings. The frogs have stopped singing. The crickets slow their rhythm. Even the Nile seems to hold its current for a moment, as if gathering strength for the new day. This is the pause, the holy instant between darkness and light, death and resurrection, the moment when Ra begins his journey from the underworld. But here, in this house, there are no grand mythologies being enacted. There is only the natural turning of the world, the ordinary miracle of another morning arriving, the simple faith that when one opens their eyes, light will come again. The man stirs first, not because of any sound, but because his body knows. Farmers learn this rhythm early and never lose it. His eyes open to darkness, and he lies still for several heartbeats, feeling his wife's warmth beside him, hearing his children breathe, knowing his mother sleeps peacefully in the corner. He is not eager to rise, not reluctant either. This is simply what happens. The day calls, and he will answer, as his father did, as his children will do, when they grow into their own houses, their own mats, their own mornings. He rolls slowly to his side, careful not to wake the others yet. His hand finds the water jar by feel. Cool clay, slightly damp. He drinks, feeling the gift of the river slide down his throat. Then he rises, joints stiff, muscles remembering yesterday's work and preparing for today's. Through the window, the first change appears. Not light yet, but the quality of darkness, shifting, thinning, becoming less absolute. The day is coming. The horizon bleeds. Not violently, but with the slow seep of color into darkness. A thin line of rose pink, delicate as a lotus petal, stretching along the eastern edge of the world. Above it, the night sky still holds stars, but they are fading, going transparent, becoming ghosts of themselves. The man stands outside now, his feet bare on earth that remembers the coolness of night. Around him, the village remains mostly silent. But he is not the only one awake. From another house, he hears the soft scrape of a door, the clearing of a throat, the first stirrings of other farmers who share this rhythm. He walks toward the river, following a path worn smooth by 1,000 years of footsteps. The air temperature shifts with each step, cooler as he approaches the water, as if the river creates its own climate, its own small weather. The smell grows stronger. Mud, fish, growing things, decay and rebirth mingled inseparably. The Nile lies before him, vast even in this dimness, reflecting that pink line of dawn like a mirror made of liquid. The water moves without seeming to move, a paradox of stillness and current, ancient and eternal. Small ripples catch the growing light. Reeds along the bank whisper their dry-throated songs. As he watches, the pink deepens to coral, to amber, to gold. The transformation is not sudden, but it is absolute. The world changes color, changes temperature, changes possibility. Night releases its grip, finger by finger. Birds wake. First the ibis, wading near the shallows, their curved beaks testing the mud for overnight offerings. Then the herons, lifting from their roosting places with slow wing beats that seem impossibly silent. Ducks scatter across the water's surface, leaving V-shaped wakes that glitter. From somewhere in the papyrus thickets, a kingfisher calls, a sound like laughter, like pure joy at surviving another darkness. The man watches all of this. Though he has seen it 10,000 times, it never becomes ordinary. The morning never fails to arrive. The river never stops giving. These are facts more solid than stone, more real than the names of kings. Other men join him at the water's edge now. They nod to each other, speaking little. Words are not needed for this communion. They are here together, witnessing. Their feet sink slightly into the mud. That black mud, that gift of flood season, that soil that means life. One man cups water in his hands and splashes his face. Another does the same. The ritual spreads without coordination, simply happening, as natural as breathing. The water is cool, shockingly clear against sleep-warm skin. They wash their eyes, their mouths, their necks, preparing themselves for the day not just physically, but spiritually, though they would not use that word. They would simply say, "This is what one does." The sun has not yet appeared, but its presence is felt. The sky brightens moment by moment. The darkness retreats to the west, to the land of the dead, to the place where it waits until evening to return. Balance, always balance. Light and dark, flood and harvest, work and rest. The boats tied to the bank rock gently in the current, bumping against each other with soft thuds. These are not grand vessels, but working boats, papyrus bundled and bound, shaped by hands that learned from other hands across generations. Each boat carries the memory of the plant it was, still smells of river reeds, still wants to return to the water. The man looks at his boat, the third from the left, slightly smaller than the others, patched in two places where age had weakened the bindings. He will go out today. He will cast nets. He will bring back fish, if the river is generous. And the river is always generous, even when it gives less than hoped for. Behind him, the village is waking fully now. Smoke begins to rise from cooking fires. He hears a child's voice, then laughter. Someone coughs. A dog barks once, announcing its own awakening to the world. But here, at the water's edge, with the gold light spreading, and the birds finding their voices, and the river flowing its eternal northward journey, time feels different, slower, or perhaps not slower, but more present, more full, as if each moment contains within it all the moments that have ever been. He breathes deeply, feeling his chest expand, feeling the morning air fill him. Then he turns back toward the house. There is work to do. There is always work to do. But first, bread must be baked. The village unfolds like a flower, person by person, house by house, life returning to the surfaces of things. The man enters his home again. Inside, his wife is already awake, kneeling by the brazier, coaxing life from last night's coals. She blows gently, steadily, her cheeks puffing and releasing, and a tiny red glow responds, growing brighter with each breath. She adds a handful of dried grass, then small twigs, building the fire with the patience of someone who has done this every morning since becoming a woman. The children are stirring. The youngest sits up, rubbing his eyes with small fists, his hair tangled, his face still soft with sleep. He looks around, momentarily confused about where he is, when he is, what is real. Then his mother smiles at him, and the world settles back into sense. "Come," she says softly, in that ancient tongue that sounds like wind and water. "Wash your face." The older daughter is already up, helping her grandmother to sit. The old woman moves slowly, but she moves. Her hands are gnarled as olive roots, spotted with age, but they still know how to work. She has been waking to this same dawn for 70 years, and she will wake to it as many more times as the gods allow. The middle child, a boy of perhaps 8 or 9, stretches like the family cat, then grins at his father. He is at that perfect age when work is still half play, when responsibility feels like adventure. He will go to the fields today. He will carry water. He will learn by watching, by doing, by making mistakes that his father will correct with patient hands. The house smells of sleep, that particular scent of bodies at rest, of breath shared in a small space, of warmth accumulated and held. But now other smells enter. Smoke from the awakening fire, the dry dust smell of the floor being swept, the faint perfume of the small bunch of dried flowers hanging from the roof beam. Light enters through the high window in the doorway, no longer tentative, growing bolder. It finds the painted clay bowl in the corner. Blue and white patterns, simple but beautiful. It touches the grinding stones, worn concave by generations of grain. It illuminates the one luxury they own. A bronze mirror, small, precious, wrapped in linen when not in use. The walls themselves seem to wake, their mud brick surfaces warming, their color deepening from gray-brown to gold-brown, the color of life itself. There are no decorations, no paintings of gods or afterlife here. This house belongs to living, not to eternity. The walls are smooth, practical, honest. Outside, through the doorway, the narrow street comes alive with movement. A woman walks past carrying a basket on her head, balanced perfectly, her spine straight, her steps even. Two young boys chase each other, laughing, their bare feet slapping the packed earth. An old man sits in his doorway, already weaving a basket from palm fronds, his fingers moving automatically, requiring no thought after 60 years of practice. "Good morning," someone calls. "And to you," another responds. The greetings are simple, ritualized, comforting in their predictability. No one speaks of dreams or fears or the mysteries of existence. They speak of weather, of work to be done, of whose cow gave birth in the night, of whether the fish are running. The family cat stretches, then walks to the doorway, pausing there to survey its domain. It is a small cat, sand-colored, unremarkable, except for its green eyes and its supreme confidence that it belongs here, that it is necessary. It licks one paw, then the other, then walks out into the warming morning, going about cat business with cat seriousness. The children laugh at this. Even the grandmother smiles. "He thinks he is Bastet herself," the older daughter says. "Perhaps he is," the grandmother replies. In that way old people have of believing and not believing simultaneously, of holding mystery and practicality in the same breath. The wife stands, dusting her hands on her simple linen dress. She is not yet 30, but her body carries the evidence of work. Strong arms, calloused hands, a back that knows how to bend without breaking. Her face is beautiful, not with the beauty of leisure, but with the beauty of purpose, of being exactly where she belongs, doing exactly what she was meant to do. "Come," she says to her daughters. The grain waits, and just like that, another day in the history of the world begins in earnest. The walk to the river is a ceremony, though no one calls it that. The wife carries a large ceramic jar on her shoulder, balanced with one hand, her hips swaying slightly to compensate for the weight. Behind her, the older daughter carries a smaller jar, learning the balance, building the strength she will need for her own household one day. The younger daughter carries a tiny jar, more symbolic than functional, but she is learning too. Learning that water must be fetched, that nothing simply appears, that life requires this daily pilgrimage to the source. They are not alone on the path. Other women and children move in the same direction, creating a stream of humanity flowing toward the greater stream of the river. Some talk quietly among themselves. Others walk in comfortable silence. A few sing, old songs, work songs, songs whose origins are lost in time but whose melodies persist. The sun is fully risen now, sitting on the eastern horizon like a golden boat, casting long shadows that walk beside each person. The air is warming rapidly, but it is still pleasant, still holding the memory of night's coolness. By midday it will be hot, but now it is perfect. They reach the bank where the mud is neither too soft nor too firm, where the current is gentle, where the water is clear enough to see the bottom for a few feet, before it darkens into depth. This is their spot, used by the women of the village for as long as anyone can remember. Perhaps for as long as the village has existed. The wife kneels at the edge, her knees sinking slightly into the cool mud. She lowers her jar into the water, watching as it fills with a musical gurgling sound. The water is not cold, but cooler than the air, cooler than her skin. It feels alive, moving past her hands, offering itself freely, asking nothing in return except respect. She lifts the filled jar, heavy now, satisfyingly heavy, and sets it on the bank. Then she cups her hands and splashes water on her face, gasping slightly at the shock of it, feeling instantly more awake, more present. She splashes her neck, her arms behind her ears. Beside her, her daughters do the same. The older one with competence, the younger one with enthusiasm that sends water flying everywhere, sparkling in the morning light. The children shriek with delight at the coolness, at the freedom of the water, at being alive on this particular morning. They splash each other, laughing, until the wife gives them a look, not angry, but firm. There is work to do, but she is smiling too. How could she not? The sound of children's laughter is its own prayer. An older woman kneeling nearby says something, a joke about youth and energy, and the wife laughs, responding with her own joke about age and wisdom. The conversation is easy, well-worn, comfortable as old linen. These women have been doing this together for years. They have watched each other's children grow. They have shared sorrows and bread. They are not sisters by blood, but by this daily ritual, by this shared dependence on the river's gift. The wife fills a second jar, then helps her older daughter fill hers. The younger daughter's tiny jar is already full, though half the water has slopped out during the filling. The child doesn't notice, too busy watching a dragonfly hover over the reeds, its wings catching the light, turning it into color. "Look, Mama," she whispers, pointing. The wife looks. She sees. She nods. "Beautiful," she says simply. And it is. They rest for a moment before beginning the walk back, sitting on their heels, looking out over the water. A fishing boat glides past, the man in it raising one hand in greeting. They wave back. Everything is connected here. Everyone knows everyone. Not in the suffocating way of gossip and judgment, but in the sustaining way of mutual survival, of shared existence. The wife closes her eyes for just a moment, feeling the sun on her face, hearing the water lap against the bank, smelling the mud and fish and growth. She feels grateful, though she would not name it as such. She simply feels right. This is her life. This is her place. This moment, with her daughters beside her, and the river before her, and the jar of water waiting to be carried home, is exactly where she belongs. "Come," she says, standing, lifting her jar to her shoulder with practiced ease. They walk back toward the village, their shadows now shorter, their jars now full, carrying the river with them into their homes, into their bread, into their bodies. The Nile gives, and they receive. This is the contract, older than writing, simpler than law. Inside the house in the small courtyard that opens to the sky, the grinding stones wait. They are made of granite, heavy, eternal, passed down from the wife's grandmother. The base stone sits solidly on the ground, its surface worn concave by decades of grain crushed into flour. The upper stone is rounded, smooth from countless hands, warm already from the morning sun. The wife kneels before these stones, as before an altar. And perhaps they are a kind of altar, for is not the making of bread a sacred act? She pours a handful of barley from the storage jar, the grains cascading with a sound like gentle rain. They are golden brown, each one a captured piece of sun and soil, of the river's gift and human labor. Her older daughter kneels beside her with her own, smaller stones. The grandmother settles herself on a low stool, unable to kneel anymore, but her hands still remember the work. She sorts through wheat grains, removing bits of chaff, checking for stones, her fingers moving with the automatic grace of infinite repetition. The wife grasps the upper stone and begins to push it forward, then pull it back, then forward again. Beneath it, the barley yields, crunches, splits, becomes something new. The sound is rhythmic, hypnotic. Crush, crush, crush. A percussion older than drums, older than music itself. The daughter matches her mother's rhythm, though her stones are lighter and her strength still growing. Their movements synchronize without effort, creating a duet of grinding, a conversation of work. They do not count the strokes. They do not watch the time. They simply grind until enough flour has accumulated, until the small pile of golden powder is sufficient for the day's bread. Other sounds join theirs, from neighboring courtyards, other women grinding their grain. The village fills with this sound, this declaration that life continues, that hunger will be answered, that bread will be made. It is a sound that has echoed through this valley for 5,000 years, that will echo for another 1,000 before machines replace it, before the old ways dissolve into history. The work is hard, the arms tire, the back aches, but there is a rhythm to it that makes it bearable, even meditative. Push, pull, the mind empties of worry, of planning, of everything except the immediate present. This grain, these hands, this stone, this flower. Sweat begins to bead on the wife's forehead. A strand of hair escapes her simple tie, falling across her face. She pauses to push it back, leaving a small smudge of flour on her temple. Her daughter notices and giggles. "You look like you've met a ghost," she says. "Perhaps I have," the wife replies, smiling. "Perhaps all our grandmothers are watching, making sure we do it right." The old woman chuckles at this. "If they are watching," she says, "they are probably saying, 'That girl grinds too fast. She will wear herself out before noon.'" They all laugh. Shared laughter, easy laughter. The kind that comes from knowing each other completely, from having no secrets worth keeping. As they work, they talk. Not of important things, but of small things. Whose daughter is of marriageable age, whether the heat will break soon, how the cat caught a mouse last night and left it as an offering at the threshold. The conversation flows like the Nile itself, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, always moving. A neighbor calls out from her own courtyard, "Do you have extra coriander? My plant died." "Yes, come later," the wife calls back. This too is part of the rhythm. Sharing what can be shared, asking for help without shame, giving without expectation of return. They are not wealthy, but they are not poor either. They are simply people, doing what people do, surviving together. The flour accumulates. The wife pauses to scoop it into a bowl, feeling its texture between her fingers. Fine, soft, warm from the friction of grinding. She brings a pinch to her nose, inhaling the earthy smell of grain, the promise of bread, the captured essence of field and sun. "Good," she says to no one in particular. "This will be good bread." And it will be. Not fancy bread, not bread for princes or priests, but honest bread. Bread that fills bellies and gives strength. Bread that says, "We have worked, and here is the proof." The daughter's arms are tiring. The wife can see it in the way her movements have slowed, become less fluid. But the girl does not complain. She has been taught that work is not something to complain about. It simply is. You do it, and then it is done. And then you rest. "Enough," the wife says gently. "You did well." The girl beams at this small praise, this acknowledgement. She stands, stretching her arms above her head, rolling her shoulders. Then she runs off to find her brothers, energy returning instantly now that the task is complete. The wife continues alone now, finishing the day's supply. Her hands move automatically, requiring no thought. This frees her mind to wander, to dream small dreams. Perhaps tonight there will be honey to drizzle on the bread. Perhaps her husband will bring home a good fish. Perhaps, but mostly she thinks of nothing at all. Simply existing in the moment, in the work, in the sound and smell and feel of grain becoming flour, becoming bread, becoming life. This is not drudgery. This is rhythm. This is what it means to be human. To take what the earth offers and transform it with hands and time and care into nourishment. The last grains yield. The last flour falls into the bowl. She sits back on her heels, wiping her hands on her dress, leaving pale handprints on the linen. The grandmother nods approvingly. "Your bread will rise well today," she says. I can feel it, and somehow, mysteriously, the wife believes her. The old know things. They feel things. Their years give them sight that younger eyes cannot yet see. Together they begin the next step, mixing the flour with water, adding a bit of yesterday's dough for the sour-sweet fermentation, kneading it into submission, preparing it for the fire that will make it bread. The morning deepens. The work continues. And somewhere, a long time from now, people will eat bread from machines and never think of the hands that once made every loaf, never hear the sound of stone on stone, never know this particular kind of honest fatigue, this satisfaction of creating food from grain, of feeding family with one's own labor. But here, now, in this courtyard, under this sun, the old way persists, and the flour is golden as light itself. Down by the boats, the men work with their hands and their inherited knowledge. The fishing nets lie in loose coils on the bank, wet from yesterday's use, smelling of river and fish and sun-dried linen. Each net is a marvel of patience. Fiber extracted from flax plants, beaten and softened and spun into thread, then woven by hand into a pattern of holes and connections, of catching and releasing, designed by centuries of trial and error into the most efficient shape for catching what the river offers. The man kneels beside his net, running his hands along its length, feeling for breaks, for weak spots, for places where a fish fought too hard and left damage behind. His fingers know this work without seeing. They can feel the difference between strong fiber and weakening fiber, between a knot that will hold and one that will slip. Beside him, his brother does the same with his own net. Around them, 5 or 6 other men work in similar silence, occasionally commenting on a particularly bad tear or a clever repair from a previous day. There is camaraderie here, but it is quiet, comfortable, not needing many words. The man finds a hole, not large, but large enough that a fish could escape. He reaches for his spool of extra fiber, strong thread saved for exactly this purpose. He begins to weave it through the existing mesh, creating new connections, recreating the pattern, his fingers moving with the certainty of 10,000 repairs made across his lifetime. His son watches from nearby, studying the movement of his father's hands. The boy is old enough now to learn this, to begin understanding that fishing is not just throwing nets and pulling them back, but preparation, maintenance, attention to detail. A good fisherman, his father has told him many times, spends more time with his net on land than in water. "See here," the man says to his son, not looking up from his work. "This is where I tied it wrong yesterday. Too tight. The fiber bunched and then it broke under strain. A net must have given it, must breathe, must move with the fish." The boy nods, crouching closer to watch. His father's hands are rough, scarred in places, darkened by sun and work. But they move with surprising delicacy through the repair, never forcing, always coaxing the fibers into place. "Can I try?" the boy asks. The man pauses, considering. Then he nods. "Start small. That corner there where it's frayed but not broken yet. Weave a reinforcement." The boy takes the spool with reverence, aware that he is being trusted with real work, not play work. He begins, fingers awkward, uncertain. The fiber wants to tangle. The pattern refuses to emerge. He frowns with concentration. His father watches from the corner of his eye, saying nothing, letting the boy struggle. This is how learning happens, not through words, but through failure and persistence, through hands finding their own wisdom. After several attempts, the boy manages a passable reinforcement. It is not beautiful, but it will hold. "Good," his father says simply. And in that single word, the boy hears pride, acceptance, acknowledgement. He glows with pleasure. The other men have their own relationships with their nets, their own habits of care. One man is reweaving an entire section, humming tunelessly as he works, the sound helping him maintain rhythm. Another is applying fish oil to a portion that has become too dry and brittle, rubbing it in with his palms, restoring flexibility. An older man, his hair white as sun-bleached linen, no longer goes out in the boats but still comes to the bank to help with repairs. His fingers are the most skilled of all, capable of the finest knots, the most invisible mending. The younger men often bring their worst tears to him, and he fixes them without complaint, grateful to still be useful, to still be part of this community of river workers. The sun climbs higher. The heat increases. Sweat runs down backs, dampens tunics. But no one hurries. Hurrying creates mistakes. And mistakes in a net mean lost fish, mean hungry families. Speed is not valued here. Thoroughness is. A boy runs up from the village. My father asks if anyone has extra hooks. Ours broke this morning. One of the men reaches into his supply pouch and hands over 2 bronze hooks, curved and sharp. Tell him to return them when he can, he says. The boy nods and runs off, his bare feet kicking up small dust clouds. He won't return them, one man says, not unkindly. I know, the first man replies. But his father would be ashamed to ask for them as a gift. This way, everyone's dignity stays intact. They all nod at this wisdom. In a village, in a community where survival depends on cooperation, these small kindnesses accumulate like the Nile's silt, slowly, almost invisibly, but creating the foundation upon which everything else grows. The man finishes his repairs and stands, stretching his back, hearing it crack. He lifts the net, feeling its weight, checking the balance. Good. It will fish well today. He coils it carefully, each loop precise, each layer lying flat. A poorly coiled net tangles when thrown, ruins the cast, wastes the moment when fish are passing. His brother has finished as well. They look at each other and nod. Time to go. They carry their nets to their boat, laying them in the stern, arranging the wooden floats and clay weights. Everything has its place, its purpose. Nothing is random. This knowledge has been refined across so many generations that it seems instinctive now. But it began with someone's observation, someone's experiment, someone's failure that taught the better way. Other men are also finishing their preparations. Boats are pushed into the water one by one. The Nile accepts them, lifting them gently, rocking them like children in a cradle. The boy helps his father push their boat into the current, his small hands beside his father's large ones. Both sets of hands weathered by the same sun, marked by the same work. The boat slides free of the mud with a soft sucking sound, then floats, suddenly graceful, suddenly belonging more to water than to land. Not today, the man says to his son. Tomorrow, perhaps. Today you help your mother. The boy nods, trying not to show disappointment. But his father sees it anyway and ruffles the boy's hair with one wet hand. Soon, he promises. Very soon, you will come with me. And I will teach you where the fish hide in summer, where they sleep in winter, how to read the water's surface like other men read papyrus. This promise is enough. The boy runs back toward the village, already imagining himself a great fisherman, casting nets with perfect accuracy, bringing home catches that make his mother smile and his sisters clap. The man climbs into his boat, settles himself, takes up his paddle. The current catches him, and he begins to move with it, letting the river do most of the work, steering more than powering. Around him, other boats spread out across the water, each seeking its own favored spots, each fisherman following his own secret map of depth and current and fish behavior. The sun sparkles on the water. Birds circle overhead, hoping for scraps. The day spreads before them like a net itself, woven with possibility, ready to catch whatever fortune the river chooses to give. And the man paddles on, his body moving with the rhythm learned from his father, who learned it from his father, back and back through time, until the beginning is lost in mist and myth. This is his work. This is his life. This is enough. Back in the courtyard, the dough has risen. It sits in its clay bowl, covered with damp linen, swollen with the mysterious work of fermentation. Tiny organisms, invisible to the eye, consuming and transforming, creating bubbles of air that make the bread light, that give it texture and flavor. The wife does not know the science, but she knows the signs. The dough has doubled, has become soft and springy, smells slightly sour in the pleasant way of good bread. She uncovers it, pressing one finger into the surface. The indentation remains for a moment, then slowly fills back in. Perfect. The dough is ready. She pinches off portions, each one roughly the same size as all the others. No scale, no measuring, just the knowledge that lives in her hands. She rolls each portion between her palms, then places it on a flat stone, and begins to press it out with her fingers, creating a round, flat disc about as wide as a dinner plate and as thick as her thumb. Her daughter does the same, her discs slightly less perfect, slightly less even, but improving with each one. The grandmother watches, occasionally commenting, "A bit thinner on that side. Good. That one is good." Remember, even thickness means even baking. When all the dough has been shaped, they have perhaps 20 discs laid out on clean linen cloths. The wife stands, wiping flour from her hands, and walks to the outdoor oven. This oven is not grand. It is a simple dome of mud brick, waist high, with an opening at the front and a smoke hole at the top. Inside, she built yesterday's fire, letting it burn down to coals overnight, letting the walls absorb and hold the heat. She can feel that heat now radiating from the oven, can see it shimmer the air above the opening. She adds a few small sticks to revive the coals, then waits, watching the flames lick upward, watching the brick glow a deeper red. When the temperature is right, and she knows this not with thermometers, but with experience, with the color of the walls, with the way her face feels when she leans close. She uses a long wooden paddle to slide the first discs inside. They land on the hot stone floor with a soft hiss. The dough begins to transform immediately. The bottom surfaces darken. The tops begin to bubble. The smell, oh, the smell, begins to rise. It is the smell of home, of safety, of mother and grandmother and great-grandmother. It is the smell that means breakfast, that means survival, that means someone cares enough to wake early and grind grain and tend fire. It is the smell of Egypt itself. Grain and heat and human hands working together. The wife watches through the opening, judging the moment. Too soon, and the bread will be doughy inside. Too long, and it will be hard as stone. She has baked bread every day since she was her daughter's age. And still she pays attention. Still she watches. Still she cares about getting it right. The first batch is ready. She slides the paddle under each disc, lifting them out, placing them on a woven tray. Their surfaces are golden brown, with darker spots where they touch the hottest parts of the oven floor. She presses one gently with her finger. It gives slightly, then springs back. Perfect. She slides in the next batch, then the next. The morning fills with bread heat, bread smell, bread satisfaction. Neighbors passing in the street call out, "Your bread smells like heaven itself. Come by later," the wife calls back. "I made extra." And she has, because this is also what one does. Makes a bit extra. Shares when possible. Knows that kindness returns like the Nile's flood. Predictable and nourishing. The last batch emerges from the oven. She counts them. 22 discs. Still warm. Still alive with heat. Enough for today. Perhaps a few for tomorrow if they are careful. She breaks one open. Steam escaping from the tear. The inside is light, airy, with irregular holes where the fermentation did its work. She tears off a piece and hands it to her daughter, then tears another for herself. They eat standing in the courtyard. The bread still too hot to hold comfortably, too delicious to wait. The crust is crisp, slightly chewy. The inside is soft, tangy, earthy. It tastes of grain and river water and fire and time. Good, the grandmother asks, though she can see the answer on their faces. Good, the wife confirms, her mouth full, her eyes closed in appreciation. This bread is not fancy. There is no honey baked into it, no exotic spices, no decoration. It is plain bread, workers' bread, the bread that has fed the builders of pyramids, and the diggers of canals, and the mothers nursing children, and the fathers hauling stone. But it is also perfect, exactly what bread should be. Honest, nourishing, made with care. The daughter runs to find her brothers, calling them to breakfast. They come thundering in, the middle son from wherever he was exploring, the youngest from playing with pebbles in the shade. They grab bread with eager hands, tearing into it with the appetite of growing children, making sounds of satisfaction that need no words. The family cat appears, hoping for scraps. The youngest son tears off a tiny piece and offers it. The cat sniffs, considers, then accepts, chewing in that particular way cats have, as if they are doing you a favor by eating your offering. They gather in a loose circle in the courtyard, sitting on mats and low stools, the breakfast spread before them on a woven platter. Besides the bread, there are other foods. A small pile of onions, their skins papery and pale, their flesh crisp and sharp. A bowl of dates, wrinkled and sweet, sticky with natural sugar. A few cucumbers from the garden, cool and wet inside despite the growing heat. And a small clay pot of beer. The beer is not like the beer of later times, not meant to intoxicate, not brewed for celebration. It is thick, slightly sweet, made from barley and bread itself, partially filtered through a basket so that some sediment remains, making it almost a food as much as a drink. It is what children and adults drink alike, safer than untreated water, more nutritious than water. A liquid that carries calories and sustenance. The man has returned briefly from the river to eat with his family. Before going back out, he sits with his back against the wall, his face already showing the beginning of the day's work, a slight tiredness around the eyes, a readiness in his posture. He takes bread and tears it, dips it in beer, eats with deliberate slowness, letting the food restore him. The wife sits across from him, feeding the youngest child small pieces of bread soaked in beer to soften them. The boy chews with concentration, his eyes wandering from face to face, absorbing the safety of being surrounded by family, by people who will protect and feed and teach him. The older children eat quickly, the way children do, already thinking about what comes next. Play or work or exploration, depending on what the day requires. The grandmother eats slowly, the way the old do, savoring each bite, not because the food is so extraordinary, but because she knows in her bones that the number of breakfasts remaining is finite, that each meal is a gift. They eat with their hands, tearing the bread, peeling the onions, passing the beer jar from person to person. There are no individual plates, no forks or knives. The food is shared from common vessels, a practice that makes the meal itself a statement of trust, of family, of belonging. The man bites into an onion, his eyes watering slightly from the sharpness, and laughs. "The onions are strong this year," he says. "They will put hair on your chest," the grandmother replies with a straight face. And everyone laughs, even though they have heard this joke 100 times, because it is comfortable to laugh at familiar things, because laughter itself is nourishment. A neighbor's child appears in the doorway, peering in shyly. The wife notices and waves him in. "Come, eat with us. There is plenty." The boy enters grateful and is handed bread and a date. He eats standing as if ready to flee at any moment, but gradually relaxes as he realizes he is truly welcome. Perhaps his own family has not eaten yet. Perhaps they have less. No one asks. No one needs to know. Hunger is hunger, and it should be answered when possible. The conversation is light, practical, The man tells his son about the nets, about how they cast them, about reading the water. The wife tells her daughter about a woman in the next village who needs help with weaving next week. The grandmother mentions that her joints are aching, which means rain might be coming, though this is the dry season, and rain is rare. The children listen and do not listen, present and absent at once, the way children are. This meal is not rushed, but neither does it linger. There is work waiting. The fields must be tended. The weaving must be done. The fishing must happen while the fish are biting. Life does not pause for breakfast, but it makes space for it, honors it, recognizes it as necessary fuel for the hours ahead. When the bread is gone, when the onions are eaten, when the beer jar shows its bottom, they stand and brush crumbs from their linen clothes. The wife gathers the empty vessels. The daughter helps. The grandmother remains seated, conserving her energy for the work she will do later. Sorting lentils, mending clothing, watching the youngest child, while others are busy. The man touches his wife's shoulder briefly as he passes. A gesture of affection that needs no words. She touches his hand in return. A response that says, "I see you. I know you. Come back safely." He walks toward the door, the middle son following him now, granted permission to spend the day in the fields, to begin his real education in the work that will define his life. The boy's face is serious with the responsibility of this, proud to be chosen, eager to prove himself worthy. At the threshold, the man pauses and looks back at his family, his wife already beginning the next task, his daughters helping, his mother sitting in quiet contentment, his youngest son playing with the cat. This is what he works for. Not gold, not glory, not monuments that will outlast centuries. This, the simple fact of them existing, fed, safe, together. He nods to himself, some internal confirmation, then steps out into the brightening street. The neighbor child, his stomach full, whispers thanks and slips away. The family cat licks its paws, satisfied with its own breakfast of scraps. And in the courtyard, the wife begins to hum as she works. A melody with no words, just sound, just the voice of contentment, of a morning begun properly, of a day unfolding as it should. The sun has climbed higher now. The heat is building. But here, in this mud brick house, with its thick walls and its small windows, the air remains bearable, cool enough for comfort, warm enough for life. The breakfast is finished. The day continues. And somewhere, centuries from now, people will eat breakfast without thinking about where the food came from, who grew it, who ground it, who baked it. They will eat in cars, at desks, standing up, hardly tasting it. They will not know this kind of breakfast. Slow, shared, grateful, simple. But here, now, in this moment, this is how humans eat. Together, with attention, with the understanding that food is not automatic, not guaranteed, but a daily gift that requires work and luck, and the river's blessing. The beer jar is empty. The bread is gone. And that is enough. The Nile at mid-morning is a different river than the Nile at dawn. The water has changed color, no longer reflecting pink and gold, but showing its true self. Brown-green, opaque, alive with sediment and mystery. The surface moves in complex patterns, here smooth as oil. They're ruffled by wind, elsewhere broken by the rise and dive of fish, or the passage of crocodiles moving like logs with eyes. The boats are spreading out now, each seeking its favored territory. The man and his brother paddle together in comfortable silence, their strokes synchronized not through planning, but through years of being brothers, of working together, of knowing each other's rhythms. The man's son sits in the middle of the boat, instructed to be still, to be quiet, not to startle fish. The boy obeys perfectly, his eyes wide, taking in everything, the way the paddle blade enters the water with barely a splash, The way his father reads the current by watching floating debris. The way distance changes perspective, making the village they just left seem small, temporary, insignificant against the vastness of the river. Other boats are visible in both directions, upstream toward the cataracts, downstream toward the delta and the salt sea that the boy has heard about, but never seen. Some boats are fishing. Others are transporting goods, jars of oil, bundles of papyrus, baskets of grain. One large boat, far in the distance, might be carrying stone for some construction project, pulled by teams of men on the bank, moving slowly, inevitably, like time itself made visible. The man stops paddling and lets the current take them. He reaches for the net, checks it one last time, feels its weight and balance. Beside him, his brother does the same. They have reached the spot. Nothing marks it. No visible difference distinguishes this water from any other, but they know it. The depth is right here. The current creates an eddy here. Fish gather here. "Watch," the man says to his son, and the boy watches with every fiber of his being. The man stands carefully in the boat, feeling it rock beneath him, adjusting his weight automatically to maintain balance. He gathers the net in his left hand, coiling it carefully, the leading edge held in his right. He judges the wind, the current, the light on the water. Then, in one fluid motion born of 10,000 casts, he throws. The net flies from his hands, uncoiling in midair, spreading into a perfect circle. The weights pulling the edges down, the whole thing landing on the water's surface with a soft splash. A splash that sounds like rain, like applause, like success. The net sinks, disappearing into the brown-green depths. The floats remain visible on the surface, marking its position. Now comes the waiting, the patience, the faith that, beneath the opaque water, fish are swimming into the web of fiber, are finding themselves caught in the ancient trap. The boy holds his breath without realizing it. "Breathe," his father says softly, smiling. "The fish don't mind noise as much as you think. It's shadows they fear, sudden movements." The boy breathes. The man begins to pull the net back, hand over hand, slowly, feeling through the fiber for resistance, for the weight that means success. The first pull feels empty, the second too. Then, there, a change in weight, a thrashing, a life struggling against inevitable capture. He pulls faster now, bringing the net to the surface. It breaks through, and there, tangled in the mesh, 3 fish, silver-scaled, twisting in the air, their mouths opening and closing, their eyes not understanding this new world of air and light and death. The boy gasps with delight. His father smiles, not at the catch, which is modest, not remarkable, but at his son's reaction, at this continuation of wonder from generation to generation. The man works the fish free from the net, careful not to damage the mesh, placing each fish in the basket of woven reeds that sits in the belly of the boat. The fish thrash weakly, then slowly still, their gills flexing slower and slower until they stop. "We thank you," the man says quietly, "to the fish or to the river or to something beyond both." The boy is not sure, but he feels the rightness of it, the acknowledgement that something has given its life, that this is not casual, not cruel, but necessary. And necessity deserves recognition. The man casts again, and again, and again. Sometimes the net comes back empty, sometimes with 1 fish, once with 5, all of them tangled together, and it takes patient work to extract them without tearing the net. Around them, other boats work in similar silence, broken occasionally by a call from one fisherman to another, a joke, a comment on the day's luck, a question about family. The sound carries across the water, becomes part of the morning's texture. The sun climbs higher, the heat increases. Sweat runs down the man's back, soaks his simple linen kilt. He drinks from a water skin, passes it to his brother, then to his son. The water is warm, tastes slightly of leather. But it is wet, and that is what matters. The basket slowly fills with fish. Not a massive catch, but enough. Enough for his family and perhaps a few. To trade for oil or dates or a piece of cloth. Enough to feel that the day has purpose. That the work is not wasted. The boy watches everything. The casting, the pulling, the working of fish from net, the placement in the basket. He is learning not just the mechanics, but the feeling of it, the rhythm, the relationship between human effort and the river's gift. Someday he will stand where his father stands. Someday his own son will watch him. The chain is unbroken, will remain unbroken, or so everyone believes. Unable to imagine a future where machines do this work, where fish come wrapped in plastic, where the Nile itself becomes something managed, controlled, lessened. A heron lands on the prow of the boat, bold or stupid, hoping for scraps. The man tears a tiny piece from one fish and tosses it. The heron catches it mid-air, swallows, then flies away with slow wing beats. Even the birds know that fishermen share their catch with the river's other children. Enough, the man finally says, judging the sun's position, feeling his arm's tiredness, seeing the basket's fullness. His brother nods agreement. They begin to paddle back, letting the current help, following the invisible highways of water that every river worker knows, moving between channels and avoiding shallows, reading the river like other men read scrolls. The village grows larger ahead of them. Other boats are also returning, creating a small fleet of homecoming. Children wait us on the bank, calling out to their fathers, asking about the catch. Women stand in doorways, judging which boat to approach for trade. The man's boat slides onto the mud. Willing hands help pull it higher, secure it. The boy climbs out, legs stiff from sitting still so long, face bright with the adventure of the morning. He has been fishing. He is becoming a man. The man lifts the basket, assesses its weight, nods with satisfaction. Not the greatest catch. Not the worst. Exactly what it should be. Enough. He hands his son one of the fish, a good-sized one. "Carry this to your mother," he says. "Tell her it fought well." The boy takes the fish in both hands, its scales cool and slippery, its eyes staring at nothing. He runs toward home, calling his mother before he even arrives, bursting with the need to share this moment, this achievement of having been fishing, of being trusted, of carrying food. The man watches him go, then turns back to his boat, to his net, to the cleaning and preparation for tomorrow. The work of fishing never truly ends. There is always something to mend, to prepare, to improve. But for now, in this moment, he allows himself a breath of satisfaction. The morning has been good. The river has been generous. His son is learning. The water laps against the boat, against the bank, against the legs of men standing in the shallows. The Nile continues its ancient journey northward, carrying soil and fish and memory, caring nothing for individual humans, but somehow making all their lives possible. Without the river, there is only desert. With it, there is everything. Food, water, trade, life itself. The man knows this. Everyone knows this. It is the fundamental fact of existence here, the truth upon which all other truths rest. He dips his hand in the water, brings it to his lips, tastes the silt and the life. Then he turns toward home, toward the next task, toward the afternoon's work. The morning along the Nile is ending. The day spreads before them all, hot and long and full of purpose. The fields lie beyond the village, spreading out in geometric patterns of green and brown, divided by the irrigation channels that make all of this possible, that turn desert into farmland through human ingenuity and back-breaking work. The man and his son walk together along the raised path between channels, their bare feet finding easy purchase on the packed earth. The boy carries a water skin and a small sack of bread and onions, the midday meal they will eat in the field. The man carries a hoe, its wooden handle worn smooth by hands, its blade shaped from wood, fire-hardened at the tip. They are not alone. Other farmers move along other paths, converging on their own plots, each family responsible for their own sections of the great green patchwork. Some call out greetings, others simply raise a hand. Everyone is focused on the work ahead, on what needs to be done before the sun reaches its brutal midday peak. The man's plot is perhaps 50 paces square. Not large, but not small either. It is what was given to his father, and to his father's father, in the complex system of land ownership and responsibility that governs Egyptian agriculture. He does not own the land. The pharaoh owns all land, or the gods own it, or perhaps the land owns itself. But he has the right to work it, to keep most of what it produces, to pass that right to his son. The crop now growing is emmer wheat, the grain that makes the bread that makes life possible. It stands perhaps knee-high, green and vital, the stalks already showing the promise of the seed heads that will form in another month. Between the wheat rows, the earth is dark and moist, not from rain, which is rare, but from the irrigation system, from the channels that bring Nile water to every corner of the field. The man surveys his plot with the critical eye of a farmer. Here the wheat is thick and healthy. There a patch looks sparse. Perhaps the seed was bad, or a bird found it, or the soil is less rich. He notes these things, files them away for next season's planting. "What do we do today, father?" the boy asks. "We weed," the man replies, "and we check the water channel. And if there is time, we thin the barley in the next plot." The boy nods, understanding. Farming is not one task, but many, each small, each necessary, accumulating into the harvest that will feed them through the year. They begin to work. The man shows his son how to identify the weeds, plants that look almost like wheat, but are not. Plants that steal water and soil richness. Plants that must be removed so the good plants can thrive. The boy learns to feel along the stem, to check the leaves, to pull gently so the roots come out without disturbing the nearby wheat. It is repetitive work, mindless in some ways, but there is a meditation to it. Bend, identify, pull, toss. Bend, identify, pull, toss. The rhythm becomes automatic, freeing the mind to wander or to empty completely, whichever it prefers. The sun is hot now, truly hot, pressing down like a weight. Sweat flows freely, soaking through linen, leaving salt crystals on skin. But the man does not stop, does not complain. This is simply the temperature of work, the cost of food, the price of survival. His ancestors endured this heat. His children will endure it. It is not personal, not cruel. It simply is. Around them, other farmers work in their own plots. An old woman weeds with fingers twisted by age, but still capable. A young couple work side by side, flirting even as they labor. Newly married, still enchanted by each other's presence. A group of children run between the rows, supposedly scaring away birds, but mostly just being children. Their laughter a bright sound against the serious backdrop of agricultural effort. The man pauses to check the irrigation channel that borders his field. Water flows through it, brown with silt, moving slowly, controlled by a series of mud brick walls and simple gates. He adjusts one gate slightly, allowing more water to flow toward the sparse section of his wheat. The water responds immediately, spreading across the thirsty earth, disappearing into the soil, carrying life down to the roots where it is needed most. The boy watches this, understanding without words that farming is not just planting and harvesting, but constant attention, constant adjustment, a conversation between human and land mediated by water. "The Nile gives," the man says, "but we must distribute. The river has no favorites. It is we who must ensure every plant receives its share." This is not philosophy. This is simply fact, observation, the accumulated wisdom of 5,000 years of agriculture in this place. They return to weeding. The pile of pulled plants grows. The sun continues its arc across the sky, relentless. indifferent, providing the energy that makes all life possible, while simultaneously making that life difficult to maintain. A shadow passes overhead, a hawk, circling, hunting for mice and voles that live in the field margins. The boy looks up, shading his eyes, watching the predator glide on invisible currents of warm air. For a moment, he envies the hawk its freedom from toil, its ability to simply ride the wind. But then he looks at his father, sees the satisfaction in the older man's face as he surveys the work they have done. The weeds removed, the water flowing properly, the wheat standing a bit straighter now, with more room and resources. And the boy understands that there is freedom in this too, different from the hawk's freedom, but real nonetheless. The freedom of useful work, of feeding oneself, of not depending on others for survival. His father catches him staring and smiles. Tired? A little, the boy admits. Good. Honest tiredness is good. It means you have earned your rest, earned your bread. They work in silence for a while longer, until the sun is nearly overhead, until the heat becomes truly oppressive, until even the most diligent farmers begin to seek shade. Enough for now, the man says. We will rest, eat, then work again in the late afternoon, when the heat breaks. They walk to the edge of the field where a single acacia tree provides a small circle of shade. Other farmers have gathered here too, sitting or lying, eating their midday meals, talking in low voices, conserving energy. The man and boy sit, their backs against the tree's trunk. The boy opens the sack, distributes bread and onions. They eat slowly, chewing thoroughly, making the simple food last. A water skin is passed around the group, each person taking only what they need, ensuring there is enough for all. An older farmer comments on the wheat crop, predicting a good harvest if the weather holds. Another mentions that the tax collector will come next month, that they should prepare. A third tells a joke, something about a crocodile and a fisherman, and everyone laughs, the sound surprising in the heat. A reminder that even in the middle of serious work, there is room for joy. The boy leans against his father's shoulder, his eyes heavy, his body relaxed. He is learning that work has rhythms, intensity and rest, effort and recovery, that no one works every moment, that breaks are not weakness, but wisdom. Around them, the fields stretch away in every direction, green against brown, life against desert, the narrow strip of fertility that the Nile creates and maintains. Without this strip, Egypt would be nothing. With it, Egypt is everything. Civilization, culture, continuity. The man looks out over his field and allows himself a moment of pride. This wheat, these plants, this small patch of cultivated earth. He made this happen. Not alone. Not without the river's help. Not without the soil's cooperation. Not without favorable weather and the absence of locusts or blight. But still, his work, his attention, his daily presence made the difference between plants that thrive and plants that merely survive. The afternoon work awaits. But for now, in the shade, with bread in his belly, and his son beside him, and fellow farmers nearby, the man is content. The heat shimmers, the fields wait, the Nile flows, and time, for just this moment, stands still. The afternoon work begins not with commands, but with a collective stirring, as if the group shares one mind, one awareness of the sun's position and the cooling that will come, eventually, though not yet. 3 families will work together this afternoon on the irrigation channel that borders all their fields. It has been silting up, the flow growing sluggish, and water that does not flow properly can mean the difference between harvest and hunger. The man, his son, his brother, 2 neighbor men, and an older uncle gather at the channel's head, where it connects to a larger canal that draws from the Nile itself. They bring simple tools, wooden shovels, baskets for carrying mud, rags to wipe sweat. The work is straightforward but hard. Dig out the accumulated silt, pile it on the banks, restore the channel's depth and flow. Simple but not easy. Never easy. They space themselves along the channel and begin. The man steps down into the water. It comes to mid-shin, warm, silty, moving slowly. He pushes his shovel into the bottom, feeling it sink into the soft accumulated mud. Lifts, dumps the load onto the bank. Push, lift, dump, push, lift, dump. The boy works beside him with a smaller tool, doing what he can, which is not much, but he is learning. And learning itself has value even when productivity is low. The brother works downstream, creating a rhythm that the man finds and matches. Soon they are synchronized, their movements creating a visual rhythm. Bend, lift, turn, dump, bend, lift, turn, dump. No one directs this synchronization. It simply emerges from shared work, from bodies finding efficiency together. As they work, they talk. Not constantly, not about important things, but in the way men talk when their hands are busy, commenting on the work, telling stories, making jokes at each other's expense. The conversation flows like the water itself, sometimes deep, sometimes shallow, always moving. "Remember when Ketty fell in this channel?" one man says, laughing. "Which time?" another responds. And everyone laughs, because apparently Ketty, who is not present, is known for his clumsiness around water. "My wife says her sister is looking for a husband," someone mentions, directing this at the brother, who is unmarried. "Does she have teeth?" the brother asks, not entirely joking. "Most of them," comes the reply. And even the boy laughs at this, understanding the humor even if he doesn't understand marriage yet. The mud is heavy, thick with silt and decayed plant matter. Each shovelful weighs on the arms, the back, the shoulders. But it is also rich, fertile, valuable. This is the same mud that makes the fields productive. The same gift the Nile brings during flood season. What clogs the channel can be spread on depleted soil, recycling the river's gift. An hour passes, perhaps two. No one tracks time precisely. The sun's position is clock enough. The pile of mud on the bank grows, becomes substantial. The channel's bottom becomes visible, the water clearer, the flow noticeably faster. Women appear, bringing water jars. The men stop gratefully, climbing out of the channel, accepting the cool water, drawn from a deeper, clearer part of the river, carried here as an act of communal support. One woman is the man's wife. She touches his shoulder briefly, a gesture of recognition that he is working hard, that she sees this, that it matters. They drink deeply, water running down chins, water precious as gold, and given freely. The women wait, talking among themselves, until the men are finished, then carry the empty jars away again, returning to their own work. The men rest for a few minutes in the shade of the bank, then return to the channel. The work is not finished. It will not be finished today, but they will do what they can, and tomorrow or the next day, another group will work on another section, and slowly, through this distributed effort, the irrigation system that makes all their lives possible remains functional. A boy younger than the man's son appears, sent by his mother with a message about something. The exact content is lost in his excited delivery, and the men listen seriously, give a response, send him running back. Children as messengers. Another small thread in the web of community. The sun begins its descent toward the west, toward the desert, toward the land of the dead. The heat, while still intense, loses its peak brutality. The work continues, slightly easier now, or perhaps they are simply numb to the difficulty. The boy grows tired, truly tired, the kind of fatigue that comes from using muscles unaccustomed to sustained labor. His father notices and places a hand on his shoulder. "Go home," he says. "You worked well. No shame in knowing your limits." The boy wants to protest, wants to prove he can continue, but honesty wins. He is exhausted. He nods, grateful for the permission, and walks back toward the village, his steps slow, his shoulders slumped, but his heart full of the satisfaction of having contributed, of having been part of the adult work. The men continue. The channel grows clearer. Fish appear in the improved flow, small ones, darting between the workers' legs, opportunistic, finding food in the disturbed mud. Finally, as the sun touches the horizon, painting the sky in colors that have no names in any language, the men climb out for the last time. They survey their work. Perhaps 30 feet of channel, cleared, flowing properly, water reaching fields that were beginning to suffer. Good, the man says. Good, the others agree. They walk back together, tools over shoulders, talking about nothing and everything, bound by the work they have shared, by the mutual dependence that defines their lives. No one thanks anyone. Thanks are unnecessary. This is simply what neighbors do, what community means, how survival happens in a place where one person alone cannot accomplish everything necessary for life. The village comes into view, smoke rising from cooking fires, children playing in the last light, dogs barking, the sounds of home, of evening approaching, of another day nearly complete. The man is tired, tired in his bones, in his muscles, in the particular way that comes from a full day of physical labor. But it is good tiredness, earned tiredness, the kind that makes food taste better and sleep come easier. He will eat tonight. His children will eat. Tomorrow, if the gods are willing and the river is generous, he will do this all again. This is his life. This is life itself, stripped to its essentials. Work, food, rest, repeat. And somehow, despite its simplicity, or perhaps because of it, it is enough. The man stood in the field, his hoe resting for a moment, his breathing steady from exertion. Around him, the wheat rustled in a breath of wind. Not a cool wind, not refreshing, just air moving, carrying dust and the scent of growing things and human sweat. He looked up at the sun. Not directly, that would be foolish, but at the sky around it, at the quality of light, at the way shadows fell short and dark, at the gold-white intensity that meant noon was approaching. This moment happened every day. The sun rose, climbed, reached its peak, descended. This was not special. This was the most ordinary thing in the world. And yet, the man felt something like gratitude, though he would not name it as such. The sun was not an enemy. Despite the hardship of its heat, the sun was necessary. The sun made crops grow. The sun marked time. The sun was the visible form of Ra, yes, but more practically, more immediately, it was simply the source of everything. He thought of the priests in their temples, performing elaborate rituals to ensure the sun's return each morning, singing hymns, offering sacrifices, treating the sunrise as a daily miracle that required human intervention to achieve. And perhaps they were right, in their way. Perhaps ritual and belief and attention were what the universe needed to continue functioning. Who could say? But he, a farmer, knew a simpler truth. The sun always returned because the sun always returned. His prayers did not make it rise. His offerings did not steer its course. The sun did what the sun did, and humans adapted to its rhythm, worked within its constraints, accepted its gifts and its burdens with equal grace. He wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, leaving a smear of mud there from earlier work. His son, nearby, looked up and grinned at the sight, his father's face marked like a warrior's, though the only battle being fought was against weeds and heat and time. "You look like a desert demon," the boy said, daring to tease. The man touched his face, felt the mud, laughed. "Then you should work harder, or the demon will eat you." The boy laughed too, and bent back to his task, and the moment passed as all moments do, dissolving into the next moment, and then the next, until the day is made of these small exchanges, these tiny acknowledgements of being alive together. The sun climbed higher still. The shadows grew shorter, disappearing almost entirely beneath the things that cast them. This was the hour when work became truly difficult, when the heat pressed down like a hand, when breathing itself felt like labor, but they did not stop. They slowed, perhaps, conserved energy, took more frequent sips of water, but they did not stop because the work was not finished, and work that is not finished today becomes harder tomorrow. Other farmers in other fields mirrored their movements, a vast choreography of human effort. No conductor, no plan, just the shared understanding that this is what must be done. From above, if a bird looked down, it would see dozens of people bent to the earth, scattered across the green squares, each in their own plot, each working alone, each part of something larger. The man's hands moved automatically. Grip the hoe, swing it down, pull it back, breaking earth, uprooting weeds, clearing space for the wheat to thrive. His mind drifted, not thinking of anything in particular, just existing in the rhythm of work, in the heat, in the small discomforts and larger satisfactions of being useful. He thought of his father, who had worked this same plot, who had taught him how to hold the hoe, how to read the plants, how to judge when to water and when to let the soil rest. His father was dead now, had been for 3 years, but he was not gone. He persisted in these skills, in this knowledge, in the muscle memory that the man now carried and would pass to his son. This was immortality, he thought, not in tombs or prayers or the judgment of Osiris, but in this, the continuation of useful knowledge, the unbroken chain of knowing how to survive, how to coax food from earth, how to work with the river's rhythm rather than against it. His father lived in his hands. His grandfather lived there too, and all the men before them, back to the first farmer, who thought to plant a seed rather than simply gather what grew wild. The wheat around him would be harvested. Some would be ground into flour for his family's bread. Some would be paid as tax to the pharaoh's collectors. Some would be saved as seed for next year's planting. And in that seed would live this day's work, this moment's effort, the sweat that fell from his brow and disappeared into the thirsty earth. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was lost. Everything cycled. Water from river to field, to plant, to body, to earth, to river again. Seed to plant, to grain, to bread, to body, to death, to soil, to seed again. The sun rose and set and rose again, and each sunrise was new, but also ancient. The same sun that had always been, that would always be. The man's theology was simple and unstated. The world continues because the world continues. Work must be done because work makes continuation possible. The gods exist, certainly. But they are distant, concerned with larger matters. Here, in the field, under the climbing sun, it is human effort that matters. Human attention that makes the difference between plenty and scarcity. He glanced at his son, saw the boy's determination, saw him learning not to complain, learning to push through discomfort, learning that the body is capable of more than the mind initially believes. Good. This was the most important education, more valuable than reading and writing, though those were valuable too. But this, knowing how to work, how to endure, how to find satisfaction in simple completion, this would serve the boy no matter what path his life took. The sun continued its climb toward zenith. The heat intensified. The work went on. And in this, there was a kind of perfection. Not the perfection of ease or comfort, but the perfection of rightness, of being exactly where one should be, doing exactly what should be done, living the life that generations had lived before, and generations would live after. The man did not think these thoughts clearly. They were more feeling than thought, more bone-deep knowing than articulated philosophy. But he knew, in the way that matters, that this moment, hot, difficult, repetitive, simple, was holy. Not because priests said so, not because gods demanded it, but because it was real and necessary, and shared with countless others across time and space, all doing similar work, all feeding themselves and their families through the honest transformation of effort into food. The sun reached its peak. The shadows vanished entirely, hiding directly beneath objects, pressed flat by the vertical light. The man straightened his back, felt it crack, stretched his arms above his head. Time to rest, time to seek shade, to eat, to let the worst heat pass before resuming. "Come," he said to his son. "We've earned our rest." They walked toward the acacia tree, toward the small community of farmers gathering there, toward shade and water and bread. Behind them, the wheat stood in its rows, green and reaching, drinking sun and water, transforming them into the seeds that would become flour, that would become bread, that would become life itself. The cycle continued. The sun continued. The work continued. And the man, walking beside his son, felt the particular satisfaction of having survived another morning, having done what needed doing, having earned the afternoon's rest. This was enough. This was everything. The afternoon light is different from the morning light. Where dawn was pink and tentative, the afternoon is gold and bold, a rich yellow color that seems to emanate not just from the sky, but from the earth itself, as if the day has accumulated light and is now releasing it, glowing from within. The man sits in the shade, his back against the acacia's trunk, his son sleeping beside him, the boy's head resting on his father's thigh, his breathing deep and even. Around them, other farmers doze or talk quietly, conserving energy for the evening's work that will come when the heat breaks. The man does not sleep. He is tired enough, certainly, but his mind is too active, too full of observations and small worries, and the general hum of existence that sometimes prevents rest, even when rest is deserved. He watches the light. He has always loved this time of day, late afternoon, when the sun begins its descent but has not yet touched the horizon, when everything is bathed in gold, when even ordinary things become beautiful. The wheat in his field seems to glow. Each stalk catches the light, holds it, reflects it back. The field looks like woven gold, like something precious, like something worth protecting, which it is. More precious than any pharaoh's treasure because it can be eaten, can sustain life, can mean the difference between survival and starvation. He thinks about the seasons, the great cycle that governs everything here. Flood season, when the Nile rises and covers the fields, depositing its gift of silt. Planting season, when the water recedes and seeds go into the wet earth. Growing season, when the sun does its work. Harvest season, when the reward comes or doesn't. If the gods are displeased or the weather turns strange or locusts come. They are in growing season now. The long stretch between planting and harvest. When daily attention matters. When weeds must be pulled and water must be managed and birds must be scared away. And faith must be maintained that the small green shoots will become tall. Stalks will become full heads of grain. It is a season of hope and anxiety in equal measure. Hope that all will go well. Anxiety that something will go wrong. But mostly, it is a season of work. And work, the man has learned, is the best cure for both excessive hope and excessive anxiety. Work keeps the hands busy and the mind focused on the immediate, the manageable, the next small task. A breeze stirs, carrying slightly cooler air. A promise that the evening is coming, that the heat will break, that relief is ahead. The man closes his eyes and lets the breeze touch his face, dry the sweat, bring the smell of the river and the fields and the distant desert. He thinks about the desert. It is always there, just beyond the green strip of the Nile's gift, waiting. The desert is death, dry, hot, lifeless, empty. The river is life, wet, fertile, generous, full. The contrast is absolute. There is no gradual transition, no slow fade from one to the other. There is green, and then abruptly, there is sand. This teaches a lesson, he thinks. Life is precious because it is surrounded by death. Fertility is valuable because it exists within scarcity. The Nile's gift is extraordinary, not in itself, but in contrast to the desert's cruelty. He is not a philosopher. He is a farmer. But farmers learn to think while their hands work. Learn to observe the patterns that repeat. Learn to find meaning in the cycles that govern their existence. His son stirs, mumbles something in sleep, then settles again. The man looks down at the boy's face. Still so young, still more child than youth, but changing, growing, becoming. In a few years, he will be a young man. In a few more, he will marry, have children of his own, take over this plot, or be given another. And the man himself will age, will become what his father was, what his grandfather was. The elder who still works, but who works more slowly, who gives advice more than labor, who sits in the shade more and in the sun less. This is the cycle within the cycle. Plants grow and are harvested and grow again. Generations grow and age and die and are replaced. The Nile floods and recedes and floods again. The sun rises and sets and rises again. Nothing stops. Nothing stays the same. But also, nothing truly changes. The patterns persist. The rhythms continue. The essential nature of existence here, work, food, family, river, sun, remains constant beneath the surface variations. The man finds this comforting rather than depressing. His life is not unique, but neither is it insignificant. He is one note in a long, continuous song, and the song would be lessened without him, even if it would continue after he is gone. He contributes. He matters. Not to history, perhaps. Not to the great record that priests keep of kings and wars and monuments, but to his family, to his children, to the small circle of people who depend on him and whom he depends on. He matters absolutely. This is enough. This has to be enough. Because it is what he has, what everyone has. Really, this moment, this place, this work, these people. The golden light deepens, becomes richer, takes on hints of orange and amber. Shadows lengthen again, stretching toward the east, pointing back toward where the day began. Other farmers are stirring, preparing to return to work for the last few hours before sunset. The man gently shakes his son awake. Time to work again, he says softly. The boy blinks, confused for a moment about where he is, then remembers. He sits up, rubs his eyes, nods. They stand together, gather their tools, walk back toward the field. The heat has broken enough that work is bearable again, almost pleasant in comparison to the midday intensity. As they walk, the man puts his hand on his son's shoulder, a gesture of affection, of guidance, of the bond that connects them, that will outlast his life, that will carry forward the knowledge and the patterns and the simple fact of survival. The wheat waits for them, growing in the golden light, drinking sun and water, transforming them into grain through the ancient alchemy of life itself. And the man, walking beside his son, knows with a certainty deeper than thought that this moment, this simple, ordinary golden moment, is holy. They greet the sun not as a god above them, separate and demanding, but as a companion who returns faithfully, who gives warmth and light without asking for anything in return, except acknowledgement, except attention, except the simple gratitude of living things that know they need the sun to survive. The work begins again. The hoe rises and falls. The weeds are pulled. The water flows through channels. And so the afternoon passed, as afternoons do, with hands busy and hearts at peace, with work that tired the body but satisfied the soul, with the understanding that this day was one of thousands, and each one mattered, and none of them would be remembered except as the general memory of having lived, having worked, having been part of the great human effort to survive and thrive in a world that gives nothing easily, but rewards those who learn to work with its rhythms rather than against them. The light turned from gold to amber to orange. The shadows stretched longer. The evening approached, and the man worked on, his son beside him. Both of them part of the eternal dance of human and earth, effort and reward, sun and water and seed and grain. The Nile flowed northward, carrying yesterday and tomorrow in its current, caring nothing for individual stories but making all stories possible. And somewhere perhaps the river remembered this day, this man, this boy, this work, not as separate things but as part of itself. As water remembers water, as time remembers time, as life remembers life. The day was not over yet, but already it was becoming memory, becoming part of the vast accumulation of days that made a life, that made a family, that made a civilization, and it was good. Story 2, The Scribe of Thebes. In a different part of Thebes, in a small room attached to the administrative buildings near the palace complex, a different kind of man wakes to a different kind of day. His name is Amenhotep, though he is called simply the Scribe by most who know him. He is neither young nor old, perhaps 30 years, perhaps 35. Time is marked not by calendars, but by the responsibilities one carries, and his responsibilities are heavy enough to age him beyond his years, light enough that he still moves without the creaking joints of true age. The room is small but clean, cleaner than a farmer's house, certainly. The walls are plastered and painted white, not decorated with scenes of the afterlife or images of gods, but simply white, reflecting what little light enters through the high, narrow window. The floor is swept daily. There is no dust here, no clutter, no disorder. Order is everything to a scribe. His bed is a wooden frame with rope supports, covered by a linen mattress stuffed with clean straw. There is a small chest for his few possessions, extra kilts, a good pair of sandals, a bronze razor, a comb. Against one wall stands a low table with a basin and water jar for washing. He wakes without drama, without struggle. His eyes simply open at the hour they always open, trained by years of routine to know when dawn is near. He lies still for a moment, listening to the silence of early morning, the absence of voices and footsteps that will fill the corridors soon enough. Then he rises, his movements precise, economical. He pours water from the jar into the basin. The water is yesterday's water, slightly stale but clean enough. He washes his face, his hands behind his ears, his neck. The water is cool, refreshing, bringing full wakefulness. He washes more thoroughly than a farmer would because his work requires cleanliness. Ink stains hands, yes, but hands that carry yesterday's dust and oil will dirty the papyrus, will leave marks where no marks should be. A scribe must be clean. From a small alabaster jar, he takes a pinch of natron, the mineral salt used for everything from washing to mummification. He rubs it on his teeth, cleaning them, freshening his breath. Then he rinses, spits the water into a waste basin, rinses again. He shaves his face, not completely, but trimming the stubble that has grown overnight, keeping his appearance neat. The bronze razor is sharp, requiring careful attention. He has shaved himself every morning for 15 years and has never cut himself seriously. This is not luck. This is the result of attention, of doing things carefully, of not rushing. Attention to detail. This is what separates a good scribe from a mediocre one. This is what he learned from his master, what he teaches his students, what he practices every day in everything he does. He dresses in his kilt, white linen, starched, folded and pleated, pristine. His wife washed it yesterday and returned it perfect. He wraps it carefully, securing it at the waist, adjusting it until the pleats fall correctly, until the appearance is exactly as it should be. Appearance matters. A scribe represents not just himself but the institution he serves. The pharaoh whose words he records. The gods whose will he transcribes. To appear slovenly is to dishonor all of these. He owns one pair of good sandals. Leather, sturdy but fine, with straps that tie around the ankle. He reserves these for work. Walking to work, he goes barefoot, carrying the sandals, preserving them. Leather is expensive. Good sandals last years if cared for properly. Before leaving his room, he pauses at the small niche in the wall, where a figure of Thoth stands. A small wooden statue, painted showing the ibis-headed god with stylus and palette. He bows slightly, says a brief prayer. Thoth, Lord of words, keeper of truth, guide my hand today. Let me write what should be written. Let me see what should be seen. Let me remember that words outlast stone. The prayer is brief, practical, not flowery. He does not ask for wealth or advancement. He asks only to do his work well. This is the prayer of a craftsman, of someone who takes pride in skill rather than result, in process rather than product. He steps out of his room into the corridor. The administrative building is already stirring. Other scribes, officials, servants preparing for the day. He nods to those he passes, receives nods in return. Few speak. Morning is a quiet time, a time for internal preparation, for gathering one's thoughts before the day's demands begin. He walks through the corridors, his bare feet silent on the cool stone, his sandals carried in one hand, his mind already beginning to organize the day's tasks, the documents that need finishing, the new assignments that might come, the eternal work of recording, preserving, maintaining the written memory of Egypt. Outside, the sun is rising over Thebes. The temples catch the first light, their limestone walls turning pink, then gold. From somewhere, the sound of morning prayers, the chanting of priests, the smell of incense already burning. Amenhotep breathes deeply, feeling the morning air fill his lungs, feeling grateful for another day, another opportunity to practice his craft, to add his small contribution to the vast archive of human knowledge. He walks toward the palace complex, toward the scribal halls, toward the work that defines him. The day has begun.